The Schutzstaffel, better known as the SS, was one of the central instruments of Nazi rule. Its name literally meant protection squadron, but that harmless-sounding title concealed an organization built around political violence, racial ideology, surveillance, and terror. Under Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, the SS grew from a small group of bodyguards into a vast network that operated across Germany and, later, much of occupied Europe. It helped enforce Nazi racial policy, hunted real and imagined enemies, ran camp systems, supplied combat units, and became deeply involved in the Holocaust. To understand the SS is to understand how a modern state can turn bureaucracy, policing, ideology, and organized violence into a single machinery of domination. The SS did not begin as a giant institution. Its roots were in the turbulent politics of post-World War I Germany, especially in Munich, where extremist movements competed for attention, recruits, and control of public spaces. The early Nazi Party used volunteer guards to protect meetings and intimidate opponents. One such group was known as the Saalschutz, or Hall Security. Its job was practical: keep order at party gatherings and defend speakers from disruption. But in the violent political climate of the Weimar Republic, security quickly blurred into street power. These guards were not neutral protectors. They were loyal party militants, and their purpose was to shield and strengthen a radical movement. In 1925, this guard formation was reorganized and given the name Schutzstaffel. At first, it was small and less important than the SA, the Nazi Party's larger stormtrooper organization. The SA specialized in mass mobilization and street intimidation, while the SS was intended to be more selective and personally loyal to Hitler. This distinction mattered. The Nazis placed enormous value on loyalty, discipline, and hierarchy, and the SS cultivated an image of elite devotion. Its members swore allegiance not to a constitution or ordinary state office, but personally to Adolf Hitler. That personal loyalty would later make the SS especially useful as an instrument for policies that required obedience without moral restraint. The decisive figure in the SS rise was Heinrich Himmler. He joined the organization in the mid-1920s and became its leader in 1929. At that point, the SS was still relatively small. Himmler transformed it with obsessive attention to recruitment, ideology, paperwork, and internal discipline. He wanted the SS to be more than a guard unit. He wanted it to become an ideological order serving the Nazi vision of race and power. Under his direction, the SS expanded rapidly after the Nazis gained influence and then state power. Himmler built overlapping offices and units that touched policing, intelligence, camps, settlement policy, and later military operations. The SS became powerful because it sat at the intersection of party loyalty and state authority. When Hitler became chancellor in 1933, the SS moved from party formation to a pillar of dictatorship. Nazi rule depended not only on propaganda and elections already hollowed out by intimidation, but on the destruction of opposition. Communists, Social Democrats, trade unionists, dissidents, and others were arrested, threatened, or driven from public life. The SS became part of the system that made resistance dangerous and isolated. It helped create an atmosphere in which people monitored their own speech and behavior. The regime's violence was not random. It was organized to teach the public that dissent could lead to prison, torture, or disappearance. The SS helped make fear a routine part of governance. One major branch was the Allgemeine SS, or General SS. This was not primarily a battlefield force. It was deeply tied to Nazi racial ideology, internal policing, and the administration of party power. The General SS helped enforce ideas that defined people by ancestry, race, and political loyalty. In Nazi Germany, law itself was reshaped to serve ideology, and organizations like the SS gave those laws teeth. Racial policy was not only written in decrees, it was enforced through offices, files, arrests, exclusions, and violence. The SS presented itself as disciplined and orderly, but its order was directed toward persecution. Its bureaucracy allowed cruelty to be planned, recorded, and repeated at scale. Another key part of the SS system was intelligence and secret policing. The Sicherheitsdienst, or SD, gathered information on perceived enemies of the regime, both inside Germany and abroad. The Gestapo, the secret state police, became one of the most feared names in Nazi Europe. Together, these bodies monitored political reliability, investigated opposition, and helped identify people targeted for arrest or deportation. Their power came partly from official authority and partly from public fear. Informants, denunciations, surveillance reports, and interrogations created a web of suspicion. The SS did not need to watch everyone all the time. It created conditions in which many people believed they might be watched at any moment. The SS also controlled the concentration camp system through the SS-Totenkopfverband, often translated as Death's Head Units. Early camps were used to imprison political opponents and terrorize society into submission. Over time, the camp system expanded and changed. It held Jews, Roma and Sinti people, disabled people, Soviet prisoners of war, resistance members, homosexual men, Jehovah's Witnesses, and many others targeted by the Nazi regime. Camp guards enforced brutal discipline, forced labor, starvation conditions, beatings, and murder. The camps were not accidental excesses on the edge of the regime. They were institutional tools. The SS administered them, guarded them, profited from them, and made them central to Nazi rule. The Waffen-SS, or Armed SS, was the combat branch. It began as armed units connected to the SS and grew during World War II into a major military force fighting alongside the German army. Its members swore personal loyalty to Hitler, and many units were heavily ideological. The Waffen-SS recruited not only Germans but also volunteers and conscripts from occupied and Allied territories. It is important to distinguish battlefield image from historical responsibility. Waffen-SS units were not simply ordinary soldiers in different uniforms. Many were implicated in massacres, reprisals, executions of prisoners, and other war crimes. The combat role of the Waffen-SS cannot be separated from the wider SS culture of ideological violence. The SS was the organization most responsible for carrying out the Holocaust, the genocide of approximately 6 million Jews, along with the murder of millions of other victims of Nazi policy and war. SS agencies helped identify, isolate, deport, exploit, and kill targeted populations. In occupied Europe, SS and police units organized mass shootings, forced ghettoization, deportations to killing centers, and the operation of extermination camps. The genocide was not the work of one office or one method. It required coordination among police, rail systems, administrators, camp staff, local collaborators, and military authorities. The SS was the core institution that connected Nazi racial ideology to practical mechanisms of mass murder. Beyond murder and repression, the SS built economic interests around exploitation. Concentration camp prisoners were forced into slave labor for SS enterprises and for companies connected to the German war economy. Prisoners were treated as disposable resources, worked under starvation and terror, and replaced when they died. This reveals an important feature of the SS: ideology and profit were not separate. The organization could pursue racial persecution, military goals, and economic gain at the same time. Camps became sites where human beings were stripped of rights, names, families, and bodily autonomy. The SS converted captivity into labor, labor into revenue, and death into an administrative expectation. As Nazi Germany expanded across Europe, the SS followed. Occupation gave it new territory, new victims, and new powers. In some places, it worked through police battalions, local auxiliaries, and occupation administrations. In others, it oversaw deportations, anti-partisan warfare, massacres, and camp operations. The SS influence grew because Nazi occupation was not only military control, it was an attempt to reorder societies according to Nazi racial and political goals. That meant deciding who could live, who would be enslaved, who would be deported, and who would be killed. Across occupied Europe, the SS helped translate conquest into terror, and terror into policy. When Nazi Germany collapsed in 1945, the scale of SS crimes became undeniable through liberated camps, captured records, survivor testimony, and war crimes investigations. At the Nuremberg trials, the International Military Tribunal judged both the Nazi Party leadership and the SS as criminal organizations. This was not a symbolic label only. It recognized that the SS had been structured and used for persecution, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Ernst Kaltenbrunner, the highest-ranking surviving chief of a major SS department, was convicted of crimes against humanity and executed in 1946. The judgment at Nuremberg established a crucial historical record: the SS was not merely a military or police body. It was a criminal instrument of a genocidal regime. The history of the Schutzstaffel is a warning about how institutions can normalize extreme violence when loyalty, ideology, and bureaucracy are fused together. The SS began as a small guard unit, but under Himmler and Hitler it became an organization that watched, arrested, enslaved, fought, deported, and murdered. Its power came from more than weapons. It came from files, uniforms, oaths, offices, orders, and the willingness of people to treat targeted groups as outside moral concern. Studying the SS is not about fascination with its symbols or hierarchy. It is about understanding how state terror is built, how ordinary administrative systems can serve extraordinary crimes, and why historical memory matters. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.